The late afternoon rush on the 47th floor of Harrison and Burke felt like a storm contained in glass. Executives darting across polished hallways, screens flashing red, a tension thick enough to taste. Aaliyah Thompson stepped out of the service elevator, her delivery bag weighing against her spine, her braids brushing the collar of her worn uniform. Before she could announce herself, a man in a gray suit snapped, "You're 10 minutes late. Do you people ever get anything right?" Another executive hissed, "If this call fails, it's over for all of us." Their words cut through the corridor with the same force as the alarms buzzing behind closed doors. And yet, as Aaliyah moved toward the conference room, unseen, underestimated, something in the charged air shifted, setting the stage for a collision between power, prejudice, and the one woman no one expected to matter. What happens next? 4 more powerful stories. Like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. The moment Aaliyah pushed open the conference room door, a wave of heat rolled toward her, not from temperature but from panic. Voices clashed over each other. Papers littered the long table. The massive screen at the front displayed a collapsing market chart glowing red across the executives' faces. In the center of the chaos stood Victoria Burke, her phone pressed to her ear, her jaw tight, her patience worn thin by forces she couldn't control. When she slammed the phone down, the crack echoed like a warning shot. Aaliyah moved silently toward the catering table, doing her best not to draw attention. But the room's agitation spilled outward like static. Someone muttered that they were minutes from losing a contract that held the company together. Someone else complained about the missing translator. And then, from near the window where the city skyline blazed with waning sunlight, a familiar voice snapped, "This is what happens when standards slip. We should never let random people wander the upper floors. It's embarrassing." The insult wasn't new, but today it lodged deeper, sharpened by exhaustion and the heavy sense that she was standing somewhere she wasn't meant to be. She kept her head down. She told herself she wasn't part of their world. She only needed to set the pizzas down and leave before they used her as another outlet for their frustration. But then the phone rang, sharp, piercing, final. Every conversation died. Every face turned toward the conference speaker system. A tremor of fear swept the room. Someone whispered, "Dubai. It's him." The executives stiffened, adjusting their suits as if straightened fabric could disguise their dread. Victoria's hands hovered over the console but didn't touch it. For a split second, her confidence fractured, revealing something surprisingly fragile beneath the polished surface. In that stillness, Aaliyah heard the muffled voice on the other end. Arabic, formal and clipped, spoken quickly by someone accustomed to power. The executives frowned at the notes in their hands, stumbling silently over unfamiliar syllables. One of them attempted the greeting, mispronouncing nearly every word before giving up in a frustrated hiss. And something inside Aaliyah cracked open. She heard her grandmother's voice again, gentle and patient, guiding her tongue through each sound, each rhythm of a language treated like music rather than speech. She remembered evenings scented with cardamom, Fatima correcting her pronunciation while stirring a pot on the stove, saying, "Language is respect. Words are bridges." That memory rose with such clarity that Aaliyah found herself stepping forward before fear could stop her. "I can take the call," she said. The room froze. Victoria turned slowly, as if unsure she had heard correctly. The executives stared as though the delivery girl had just claimed she could fly. The man in the gray suit snorted. "This is ridiculous." But Aaliyah didn't look away. "I speak Arabic," she said, her voice steady. "Well." The phone rang again, longer, more insistent. A decision had to be made. Victoria's eyes narrowed, calculating risk, cost, possibility. Then, with a breath that carried 8 months of pressure, she said, "Answer it." Aaliyah stepped to the console. Her hands didn't shake. "As-Salamu Alaikum," she began, her voice carrying a calm that startled even her. The reply came fast, formal, edged with impatience, but she matched it effortlessly. She clarified identities, confirmed details, built rapport with the respectful tone her grandmother had once insisted was non-negotiable. When she hung up, the room exhaled as one. "He'll call back in 40 minutes, she said. "He expects someone capable to speak with him." One executive scoffed loudly, unable to restrain himself. "We can't rely on a pizza girl for this. This is $100 million. For a moment, anger threatened to flare hot within her, but she remembered her grandmother again. Whoever shouts has already lost the room. So she simply lifted her chin and said, "I'm not negotiating. I'm translating. You do the rest." Those 40 minutes became a battlefield. She was handed documents thick with legal jargon. She was questioned, doubted, tested. But she understood more than they expected. Payment terms, cultural customs, conversational rhythms common in Gulf regions. She pointed out clauses that would insult their client, time frames that needed adjusting, greetings that needed softening. Every time she revealed another piece of unexpected knowledge, the room shifted slightly. Skepticism turned into confusion, then curiosity, then reluctant respect. Only one man held on to his scorn, the one in the gray suit. He leaned against the wall with crossed arms, whispering to another executive, loud enough for her to hear. "She'll slip. People like that always do." But Aliyah stayed unmoved. When the call finally came, she translated with precision. Victoria followed her cues, adjusting tone, pacing, and even small cultural nuances with surprising grace. The conversation flowed, delicate and tense, like navigating a narrow bridge above a deep canyon. Then the Sheikh asked the unexpected question. "Who is translating? I know this voice." Aliyah introduced herself softly, unsure of what would follow. But what came next unraveled the entire room. "Thompson," the Sheikh repeated. "Are you the granddaughter of Fatima al-Fars?" The name struck her like a warm wind. She confirmed it. Silence followed, long, reverent, full of weight. The Sheikh took a breath that carried decades of history. Then he explained how her grandmother had once saved his family's business when others turned them away. The revelation broke something open in the executives. Shock rippled through them. Even Victoria appeared moved. But the man in the gray suit looked as if the ground beneath him had buckled. When the Sheikh declared that Harrison and Burke would only secure the contract if Aliyah became their liaison, the room erupted. Some in disbelief, some in awe, one in refusal. The man in the gray suit protested, stepping forward with a glare aimed at her. "This is absurd. She's unqualified. She doesn't belong here." The Sheikh heard him. His voice cut through the speaker like steel. "Is that the man who insulted her earlier?" The room fell silent. Aliyah blinked. She hadn't realized anyone outside the hallway had heard. But the Sheikh continued, his tone frost-cold. "Remove him from the negotiations. Immediately. Or I'll withdraw the offer." Victoria didn't hesitate. "Marcus, hand me your badge." The man sputtered, turning red. "You can't be serious." But she was. And security arrived within seconds. As he was escorted out, Aliyah expected to feel vindicated. Instead, she felt something quieter, an unshakable confirmation that her grandmother's lessons echoed far beyond the walls of any building. The contract was signed. She was hired. The world that once ignored her now depended on her voice. Months later, standing in the gleaming Dubai office, greeting the Sheikh in person, she realized the arc of her story had curved not through luck, but through the quiet, unseen labor of generations before her. Yet the true justice came afterward. The man in the gray suit, Marcus, was exposed for more than his insults. HR investigations uncovered a long history of discriminatory behavior. Files came out. Testimonies followed. His dismissal became permanent. Several companies refused to interview him, citing serious concerns about professional conduct. In an industry obsessed with reputation, he found himself locked outside the doors he once guarded so arrogantly. Meanwhile, Aliyah rose. She built bridges. She negotiated deals. She carried her grandmother's legacy into rooms where no one expected her to stand. And every time she passed the service elevator on her way to the executive floor, she felt a quiet, steady warmth, like Fatima walking beside her. And yet, the story wasn't finished. Because a new conflict simmered beneath the surface, one that would force Aaliyah to confront power at an even higher level, challenging not only her skills but the very foundations of the company that now depended on her. And that is where the real storm begins. In the weeks that followed, Aaliyah settled into a rhythm she had once thought belonged to someone else's life. Meetings no longer blurred together. They opened like doors she finally had permission to walk through. She carried herself differently now. Not louder, not prouder, but steadier, as if every step honored the woman who had taught her that truth spoken with dignity could reshape an entire room. People who once hurried past her now paused to ask for insight. Even Victoria watched her with a quiet respect, recognizing the shift not as a miracle but as the result of years no one had seen. And though the company moved on from the crisis, the lesson it left behind stayed with her. Rising isn't about overpowering anyone. It's about refusing to shrink when your moment finally arrives. One evening, long after the office lights dimmed, Aaliyah stood by the window overlooking the city. Her reflection stared back, confident, calm, unmistakably herself. A small silver charm her grandmother had given her hung at her collar, catching the last trace of daylight. It glimmered like a promise passed from one generation to the next. That was the moment she understood. What began as survival had become purpose. If this story spoke to you, help it reach someone who needs it. Like the video, share it with a friend, and support Canada's Heartfelt Tales by subscribing. Your encouragement keeps these stories alive.